everyone, a very good evening. You're watching The Money Show on ET Now. I'm Mubina Kapasi. This is the show where we get you a handle and get you a grip onto the world of personal finance. How can you efficiently manage your money so as to help you not worry about money in the future? I'm Mubina Kapasi, and today we are going to be talking about emergency funds. Now, if you guys will remember, and if you've been followers of The Money Show right from the beginning, we've stressed on the importance of having an emergency fund. It could be an amount that's kept aside every month or every other month from your monthly income, from your monthly salary. Keep it aside in a savings bank account or in a liquid fund and park it and keep it so that it'll come of use on a rainy day. And of course, there's no better time than now to actually crack open that emergency fund piggy bank, because the COVID-19 lockdown may have disrupted incomes, it may have disrupted your businesses, it may have even caused some of you to be out of a job. And that's exactly when an emergency fund comes into use. You can break into that piggy bank, and until you're able to get another job or your income flow resumes, the emergency fund will help you survive and subsist over till you're able to tide over that crisis. However, we realize that many of you may actually not be having that emergency fund, or because we are now almost 2 months into the lockdown, the emergency fund as well may have depleted quite significantly. So what's next? Ideally, of course, your emergency fund should last you 6 to 7 months. But hey, maybe you guys had just started creating an emergency fund. You may not have had enough time to top it up. Or I suppose even worse, you did not plan for an emergency fund. So let's talk then about what next. What if you don't have an emergency fund? I have with me Mrin Agarwal to talk about this topic. Mrin, thanks so much for joining us today on The Money Show. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. This concept of an emergency fund is something that we have time and again discussed with you as well. You've stressed on the importance of keeping an emergency fund, and now is exactly when it's coming of use. But we are 2 months into the lockdown, and like I mentioned, many people may actually have had run out of the emergency fund. What would you, and if in case they're in urgent need of cash, what would you recommend they do right now, Mrin?
So if you've really run out of emergency fund, if you've run out of savings, then you don't have an option but to look at your existing assets and maybe look at getting out of that. I wouldn't really recommend taking on another loan at this point in time, because it's only going to basically increase your burden. And as we see, the personal rates are pretty high. They're at 16-17%. So, if the future is really uncertain at this point, it does not make sense to take a loan. One of the easiest assets to really look at is gold, because I find that most Indian families have a very large amount of gold, which has been bought for uncertainties as well. So I think it's a good idea to maybe look at selling some gold. Otherwise, if you don't want to touch your assets, the other option is, of course, to take help from a family member.
Indians buy a lot of gold. They have a lot of yellow metal lying at home, not just heirloom. I'm talking about even investments, and I think it's taken off quite a bit in the last couple of years. Now, Mrin, let's talk about. You mentioned that gold should be the first asset that one should sell, but obviously sometimes people don't want to sell gold because of sentimental reasons. And yes, we do talk about keeping gold which is consumed separate and gold which you make for investment or which you buy for investment separate. What would be the next asset then that one should tap into? The government has allowed Provident Fund to be tapped into. They do allow now 75% of withdrawals. But when we talk about Provident Fund, this is literally your retirement kitty, right? I mean, a PF is created so that the government has told you that, listen, this is your social security for your for your old age. So would you recommend tapping into the PF?
Not at all, because if you do that, you're really going to lose out the biggest benefit that product provides, which is the future compounding that you basically out due to exiting from that particular investment. And as you rightly mentioned, the Employee Provident Fund is a financial security for your old age, and it's not really a good idea to pull out of it. one of the other options that you could look at, which is easily accessible, cost bank deposits. I would also say that if you have underperforming investments, especially if you have, for example, ULIPs, and as we've seen that most of the insurance, investment-linked insurance plans do not really give very good returns. So if you have an opportunity to maybe exit from there, then that could be an option. Of course, the easy one would be fixed deposits, because it's very easy to break a fixed deposit.
And most banks nowadays don't even charge a penalty or cut an amount if you are prematurely withdrawing your fixed deposit. At least most of them do not have that charge anymore, so that's a relief. Online banking, it's just a couple of buttons away and you can break your FD. It'll get transferred to your savings account. Okay, now Mrin, let's get back to creation of an emergency fund. Fortunately, there are quite a few out there whose jobs are steady, whose incomes as well are steady. But now this whole COVID lockdown may have got them thinking about the importance of an emergency fund. Yes, they were lucky in this round of the crisis because, they had their job secure and they kept getting that monthly income. However, who knows? I mean, unfortunately, this is not the first crisis. It's not the last crisis. We could be seeing more going forward. It may not be on such a macro level, but it could be a personal emergency as well. So what is step one of creating an emergency fund?
Of course, the step one is to start with the right amount and have the right amount in mind. Typically, people earlier they used to say 3 to 6 months, but I think given all the uncertainties that we're seeing right now, I think 6 to 12 months is something that you need to look at. Of course, the basic rule being that you have to create an emergency fund. Don't look at your credit card as being an emergency fund. So that is really the start, and you do it slowly. If you can't do it at one shot, I'm sure it's not easy to do it at one shot. So every month you put aside some money. But I think at this point in time, if you do not have an emergency fund, I think that, and if you have a limited amount of money to invest, then I think that putting money in the emergency fund will have priority over doing any other investment. So if for example, you have some SIPs going, but you don't have an emergency fund, then you need to basically look at maybe diverting that money towards the emergency fund and pausing your SIPs till the time you have enough money to invest for it. And of course, in terms of the instruments, I would say you could look at fixed deposits depending upon your taxable income, your tax slab. You could also, of course, consider the shorter term debt funds, which is essentially the ultra short term or the low duration debt funds.
Okay, so basically look at debt funds, ultra short term debt funds, low duration funds is what you have to look at when you have to park your emergency funds. Just to get back on the quantum of emergency fund, Mrin, how should an individual decide that, okay, this is what I need to set aside from my salary in any of these debt funds or in any other liquid security as a part of my emergency fund? Just to sort of rehash that for our viewers, how can a viewer decide what's the amount every month or every other month that has to be put aside in the EF?
6 to 12 months of your expenses should be your emergency fund. So let's say your expenses are 30,000 rupees a month, then 6 months would be, let's say, 1,80,000. So you should have at least 2 lakhs that you need to build up in your emergency fund. So you could build it up over a period of time. As I said, that you could look at building it up over a 6-month period also. But I think, you should start with at least 2 months of expenses. So I think in the first month, I certainly think that you should put a higher amount because, then at least you have some amount there, right? So I think the first month when you start investing, you should at least put 2 months equivalent of expenses. And then you can slowly start increasing the amount to get to that 6 to 12 months of expenses number.
All right. Okay, so it has to be based on your essential expenses. Take stock of that, see how much do you spend on essentials every month, and then of course multiply by that number, by the number of months that Mrin has mentioned. That is what you need to fill up in your emergency fund. So every month, every other month, keep putting in money in your emergency fund till it doesn't balloon to that amount. It's extremely important you do that, and I'm sure that since we've passed we are still in the midst of a crisis where economy is slowing down, people are losing their jobs, small business owners as well are struggling, even big business owners for that matter are struggling. These are the times when an emergency fund really comes of use, and you've got to start working on that one. Extremely important to do that. Okay, well, you know what, let's do one thing. Let's take on board some email queries. We've got a significant chunk of them lined up, so let's get straight to that. Our very first query is coming in from Jayender. He's one of our avid viewers. So Jayender, thanks for watching the Money Show as always. Let's start off with his question. He says that he's invested in a couple of funds since 2019, all of them purely for a long-term investment horizon, and he's done SIPs. All of them are from Axis, large cap, mid cap and small cap. He wants to know if this portfolio is okay and if you have any suggestions. And he's also looking to further diversify. He wants to pick a fund in every category. So he's looking at a large and mid cap, and within that category he's looking at Mirae Asset, Canara Robeco Emerging, Invesco India. He's looking at multi-cap as well. Parag Parikh, Canara, Kotak Standard is what he's looking at. And apart from these three categories, you also want an ELSS, which does make sense. I mean, you want to have your tax-saving investments as well for Section 80C. So he wants to know what the composition is like. So Mrin, I may understand why he's put all of them in Axis funds, because Axis funds have been great performers last year, but they're only Axis. So, I mean, what's your view on that? And yes, of course, how would you recommend he go about diversifying in all of the categories that he's mentioned? That's large and mid cap, multi cap and ELSS.
So yeah, first and foremost, having all your investments in one fund is not a good idea, because there would be overlap of stocks within the funds themselves. While you have chosen large cap, mid cap and small cap, but there would be some amount of overlap between the funds as well. The other thing is that it's always good to diversify among fund houses, because sometimes it just happens that, I'm not saying that this is true for Axis, but I'm just saying in general, it's good to diversify because of the investment styles. And sometimes there might be a star fund manager, who might be running the show. So you don't want to get stuck with those sort of issues. Now, in terms of the funds that he wants to further invest into, I think I don't think that he should look at the large and the mid cap space, since he already has the Axis Blue Chip Fund. And I really think that he should stick to the multi-cap space. And within that, of course, I like the Parag Parikh Fund a lot. The Kotak Standard Multi-Cap is number 2 on my list. As far as ELSS is concerned, I would recommend the DSP Tax Saver. Axis, again, is a good fund, but given that he's already got so much exposure to Axis funds, I don't want to recommend the Axis Long-Term Equity Fund. So I would suggest DSP Tax Saver that is what I would go with.
All right, so that's of course the word coming in from Jayender. I hope this advice will help you with your wealth creation journey. It's great that you have a long-term view in mind. And yes, for people who like Jayender, who've started investing in SIPs in 2018, 2019, they may be having a bit of a tough time, because obviously you've just been a recent investor. The 2020 carnage is something that has depleted the value of a lot of mutual funds. So I get you may be worried, but it's important to have a long-term view in mind. And we often say that when you're putting your money in mutual funds, keep your view long-term. Extremely important to do that. All right, well, let's move on and take on board a few more viewer queries. We're going to try and dedicate it to viewer queries. My apologies, we've not been able to do that in the last couple of episodes. But yes, let's move on. Shankar Sohanlal has written into us saying, I've invested in the BNP Paribas Mutual Fund Multi-Cap Regular Plan. It's a lump sum amount of 55 lakh rupees in 2017. Didn't receive dividend in May for the first time. Till today, 11 lakh rupees has been received as a dividend. So now he is worried about his principal amount, because that has depleted to 33 lakh rupees because of COVID-19. So now he wants to know how how safe is his capital invested in the BNP Paribas multi-cap regular plan mutual fund? Like I mentioned, for people who invested in the last 2 years, they may really be feeling the pinch. Now, Mrin, unfortunately, Shankar has not given us any other information on his financials, so really can't judge just on the basis of this mutual fund. But nevertheless, I think for any of our viewers who are watching, who are looking at their mutual fund values really deplete, what would you recommend?
Yeah, so actually, honestly, I think with his mail, I feel that this is like a very large chunk that he's invested in just one fund. So first and foremost, please always diversify within your investments. It's so important. Now, secondly, I think what the, of course, the values are down at this point in time because markets are down. And essentially, the time period that he's invested in as of now is pretty short. So I really think that he needs to wait for some more time. I don't think that there's much that he can do right now. And certainly, I would not advise him, to switch investments and do all that right now. I really think he needs to be patient, wait for markets to come up, and then evaluate as to how this fund is doing versus category average and versus the benchmarks, and then take a decision. But I don't think that he should exit at this point in time.
Don't exit, no point of exiting right now because this unrealized loss, what we call it, will become actual loss if you do exit. So don't exit right now, leave your investments as is. Okay, moving on. Aditya Bodhi writes in saying, I've already invested in the following mutual funds 2 years ago, wanted to invest more in a staggered manner. There's L&T Midcap, Motilal Oswal Multi-Cap 35 Fund, the Principal Emerging Blue Chip Fund, and Aditya Birla Sun Life Equity Fund. He's investing in his son's education, which he may need after 15 to 18 years. So these investments are purely for his son's education. Long time, 15, 18 years. So it's a good amount of time. Now he wants to know whether these are good funds and should he invest more in them. Interestingly, again, these are lump sum, but what he wants to do is add on to these very same mutual funds in an SIP. So Mrin, should he continue adding on to the very same funds, or do you think he should, start his SIP in some other funds?
I think overall his portfolio is okay. Yes, some of the funds are certainly underperforming, but that is, again, markets are down, funds go through cycles. So you will see some periods of underperformance in all funds. And hence, it's too early right now to look at changing funds. One thing that I really like is that, he's sticking on to 4 funds and he's not really looking at increasing the number of funds to too many. So that's a good thing that he's doing. Keep a check on the fund performance. So again, evaluate the funds based on performance versus category average and the benchmark. Keep a check on the fund performance for the next 6 months to a year. And then essentially, see if there is still a lot of underperformance in some of the funds, then you might want to look at exiting. But as of now, I think the funds are fine. There is underperformance. Just be patient, hang in there, and keep evaluating the performance.
Be patient, keep evaluating the performance, but so far funds get a thumbs up. So Aditya, kudos that you have planned so well ahead for your son's education, keeping in mind the next 15, 18 years as well. So good long-sighted view is what you have kept in mind. Okay, next up we have John, who writes into us saying, I am serving in the Defence Forces, looking forward to invest for the next 7 years, that's till April 2027. He wants to create a corpus of 1 crore to buy a house. He's already been investing in a couple of SIPs. There's the Mirae Asset India Equity Fund, 20,000 rupees, 7,000 in SBI Blue Chip, 5,000 in the HDFC Nifty 50, another 5,000 in HDFC Mid Cap, and 2,000 in Nippon Small Cap. John has started investing in this SIPs as early as April 2017, and he's still continuing in these SIPs. But he's also furthermore done a few SIPs in DSP Small Cap Fund and Motilal Oswal Focused, but he stopped these SIPs in 2019. Now he wants to furthermore stop all of these and invest in index funds, a Nifty Next 50 index fund, a mid-cap fund, 2 multi-cap funds, 2 small-cap funds. And then there's also furthermore a PPF contribution plus a defense, provident fund of 40,000 per month. So that's basically, I think, a fund as well that's provided for the defense forces, plus there's PPF as well. So that bit is there. Okay, Mrin, do you think too many funds? Because, he's already got 6 funds in total where he's invested, and he wants to add on another 6 more funds. So do you think we're talking about too many funds that John is invested in?
Absolutely, too many funds. And also, again, I think the funds that he's holding, I think SBI Blue Chip, HDFC Mid Cap, Nippon Small Cap, I think these funds are fine. Yes, there is underperformance. So again, SB Small Cap or Motilal Oswal for 35 fund, there is some underperformance that's there, but I don't think that it's anything to be too worried about. And, honestly, I've seen this a lot, that everybody feels that, okay, right now I'll exit from the underperforming fund and get into something that's doing well. But the problem is something that's doing well is that it's already given good performance, right? So from here on, you don't know how the performance is going to be going forward. And finally, patience pays. Greed kills, patience pays. You will just have to hang in there. I don't see any need to get into an X50 fund or, change the portfolio mix into 2 multi-cap and 2 mid-cap and 2 small-cap, because you already have those investments. He has Nippon Small-Cap and he has DSP Small-Cap. He's got Motilal 35. He's got a large-cap fund. He's got an index fund already. So just stick in there. There is underperformance. Markets are very volatile right now, but this switching in and out is really not going to help you get to the right fund ever, to be honest.
I think patience and consistency is really the name of the game for retail investors in the mutual fund industry. Just juggling between too many funds is not a good idea. Folks, I don't think we're going to be able to have the time to take any more questions and queries. But Mrin, before I let you go, I just thought that I'll talk to you about the latest news that came in on Franklin Templeton. Now, the update that came in yesterday was that e-voting process that was to be held between the 9th and the 12th of June, that's between next Monday and Thursday, has now been stayed by the Gujarat High Court. Just a reminder for all our viewers, what this e-voting process would do is essentially call for a meeting of the unit holders, obviously via the web, and ask unit holders to choose between, firstly, liquidation or no liquidation, and if there's liquidation, then who will be authorized to conduct this liquidation? Will it be the trustees of Franklin Templeton, assisted by Kotak Mahindra Bank, who they have hired for this purpose, or will it be independent consultant Deloitte, who will also be assisted by Kotak Mahindra Bank, and the trustees will have a minimal role. Now, this entire thing was petitioned by a couple of petitioners who are unit holders in Franklin Templeton, one of them being the promoter family of Rasna, and they contended that this entire investor consent for the winding up firstly was not taken, and that's why this e-voting should also not be allowed. And they also believe that this winding up is not according to norms. It doesn't really mean much for investors in terms of recovery of money as such. Now, do remember, folks, even though this stay has been put in, firstly, e-voting is not going to happen on the 9th of June. The next hearing, of course, at the High Court is only on the 12th of June. But the question is, does this mean that your money will not be recovered until the stay order is lifted? So we'll just try and explore that angle. Mrin, I wanted to know if you have a comment or an opinion on this entire Franklin Templeton issue.
I think, Templeton themselves have said that, they're yet to come out with comment on this right now. So I'm not really sure about it. And I just feel that at this point in time, honestly, I think all this is just going to delay things for investors, right? Because as we know, legal processes are quite low. are quite high and are quite long drawn. If it is a quick judgment, then yes, but I think it has to be like a wait and watch. I mean, I really don't have a comment other than that at this point in time.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, I guess we'll wait and see how this proceeds. But yes, for now, you are not going to be able to get your money. It's perhaps going to be a long drawn process. What you can do is, of course, maybe join in on this petition. You can implead yourself into the case before the Gujarat High Court. But the costs, of course, in getting into this legal tangle are extremely high. So for now, for small retail investors in Franklin, I suppose it's just wait and watch and see how things essentially proceed. Rin, thanks so much for joining us today on The Money Show. Hope you have a lovely day ahead. And on that note, we'll wrap it up on this episode. Stay tuned to ET Now. We have lots more news, content, and relevant analysis that matter.